Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It is week number 23 of the 2023 National Football League season. It is Super Bowl week in Vegas, and this is Jonesing for Football. Bill Jones in Dallas, Young Cody Winstead in his Emmy Award in the Jonesing for Football studios in Philadelphia. No, Young Cody, we are not in Las Vegas, sad to say.
Yeah, kind of disappointing. I thought at one point either the Eagles or the Cowboys were going to be there, but unfortunately both stumbled early in the playoffs. But it's good to see the Niners. It's good to see the Chiefs. We're going to have a great game on Sunday, Mr. Jones.
Is it good to see my Super Bowl cap I am sporting today?
That is old school, the shark tooth. Me and my dad used to rock the shark tooth caps back in the 90s along with Troy. I remember when Troy Aikman used to wear the shark tooth on the sideline.
For those of you who are not watching via Zoom on BillJonesSports.com, it is a Super Bowl 28 cap from the Cowboys Super Bowl win in Atlanta, which was precisely 30 years ago. And then what happened 2 months later? That was the divorce. Jimmy and Jerry got divorced.
Yep.
And Cowboys, of course, the following year made it to the NFC Championship game. Barry Switzer drew a 15-yard penalty because Deion Sanders basically tackled Michael Irvin on a route. It would have been the greatest comeback in football history. And then the following year, Barry Switzer and the Cowboys won Super Bowl 30. Since then, there has been nothing but Dudsville every single year here in Dallas.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, Bill Jones? Everybody talks about the Cowboys' long stretch without a Super Bowl. How come no one talks about the 49ers' long stretch without a Super Bowl? They're going for their first title since 94. Even the Cowboys have won after the 49ers. What's up with that?
That's exactly right. Well, you know what's up with that?
Well, they've made the Super Bowl a couple times in
Yeah.
between. But still, the fact that the Cowboys and 49ers have not won the Super Bowl in 30 years, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. And it's 28 years for the Cowboys and it's 29 years for San Francisco.
Yep.
But as predicted here on Jonesing for Football at the beginning of the season, this could be the year. Wait until the end of the show and I'll let you know whether I am sticking with my preseason prediction of the San Francisco 49ers winning the Super Bowl. And I'm just kicking myself. It seems like every year I pick the Dallas Texans to go to the Super Bowl. And because the Dallas Texans won it last year, I did not pick them to repeat this year. Otherwise, I would have had this because I was torn on my AFC pick and I went with Buffalo instead, thinking it would be a rebound year for Josh Allen and crew.
Yep. We each had one of the two Super Bowl opponents. I actually will tell you at the end of the podcast whether my preseason pick of the 49ers losing in the Super Bowl will be correct. So stick around for that, Mr. Jones.
So one of us, our preseason predictions, one of us will be right because one of us picked San Francisco to win it all and the other one picked San Francisco to lose in the Super Bowl.
Correct. I also, by the way, had the Eagles losing in the Super Bowl last year. So I'm going for 2 for 2. I'm really good. I'm not good at picking the Super Bowl champion, but I'm good at picking who loses in the Super Bowl. That might be my thing. I might claim.
Okay, so we're going to go back in history. We're going to pat ourselves on the back for our Super Bowl picks. The last time that I got a Super Bowl matchup correct was when the San Francisco 49ers went to the Super Bowl and met the Baltimore Ravens, and I was big on the Harbaugh Bowl that year. And I think I picked Baltimore to beat San Francisco. I think I got that one right, but
I thought you were going to say the last time the Cowboys went to the Super Bowl was the last time that you actually got got it right. Because most of the time you pick the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl. This is actually the exception that you picked the Niners. All right, let's get into it, Mr. Jones. We are going to talk a lot about Super Bowl 58, obviously, this week, Niners and Chiefs. Then we're going to do a little pressure's on, which we've done throughout the season. I know Mr. Jones loves that. So do our loyal listeners. We're going to save our picks for the end, but we're going to insert a little NFL draft talk. We're going to talk some college all-star games. I've been watching the East-West Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl. I'm wondering if Mr. Jones has started his big green NFL draft scouting notebook. Don't tell us yet. Let's save it. Let's save it. We'll see if he does that. So we're going to get into a little NFL draft. Then we're going to bring our guarantees back for Super Bowl, and then we're going to make our pick. So it's going to be a stacked show today. We're going to start it off by Mr. Jones breaking down Super Bowl 58. I want to see what sticks out to you about this matchup.
Oh, what a dandy matchup this is, as a matter of fact. Don't you think it's a great matchup?
Very much so. I cannot wait. I've gotten to the point, Mr. Jones, and I'm wondering if you're at the same one, where the 2 weeks is too long. It either needs to be a week in between or a week and a half. But like, once you get to the point, the first week they're off, I'm looking at the stats, I'm reading, I'm like, oh, that's intriguing. You know what? I actually think that might determine who wins this game. And then the following week, actually game week, you keep reading, you look at more stats, and you're like, oh, that stat actually negates the stat I thought was going to determine the winner. You know what? Let's just kick this thing off. Let's just play football, but I'm fired up.
You have too much free time on your hand. If you were in Vegas on Radio Row, you would not be looking so much at the matchup. You would have other things to do. The NFL Network should have sent you to Las Vegas, and then you would be able to go more with your gut on your picks than what we're looking at.
This is my life, Bill Jones. I am all football all the time, no matter what I'm doing. I'm lucky to do it, blessed to do it. But regardless, I'd be reading and looking at everything.
Well, you tipped your hand when you said that you were all over those college all-star games last week. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the East-West Shrine Bowl, which was in my own backyard, and I didn't pay enough attention to it.
I watched every snap of the Shrine Bowl and every snap of the Senior Bowl, but I did it for the podcast, Bill Jones. I did it for you.
Just for this, just for Babe Loffenberg on his elliptical machine, because
Also
he
true.
needs a scouting report, especially on those quarterbacks, and it's a quarterback-heavy draft. Speaking of quarterbacks, how about this matchup of quarterbacks in this game? Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes, and it's a contrast as far as where they were selected in the draft. Of course, Mahomes was up near the top of the first round. Andy Reid had his eyes all over him coming out of Texas Tech, and traded up to take him 10th overall, and he has not disappointed, of course. You know, one of the things that's interesting about the quarterbacks, and we kind of relate it to the draft a little bit, is the number of snaps that they both got in college. Now, Mahomes came out early, but he did have in college a lot of playing time, not successful playing for Cliff Kingsbury in terms of the one-loss record. Back 5-7 his last year at Texas Tech. But Brock Purdy was successful at Iowa State, especially by Iowa State historical standards. And look what Purdy has done in the NFL. In the NFC Championship game, at halftime of that game, I was sitting there going, okay, Brock Purdy is looking like a 7th-round draft pick the first half of this game.
Exactly.
But I was very impressed with what he did in the second half of that game, and even the athleticism that he showed, using his feet to convert some third downs and some long runs and get his team going. The thing that strikes me about both these teams is, and I remember a year or so ago doing a Zoom with Jimmy Johnson. And, Jimmy Johnson was a great evaluator of talent. And when I think about those Cowboys teams from the 90s and even their Super Bowl teams of the 70s, in talking with players from those teams and having covered the team in the 90s, I was struck by how football smart these guys are. And in fact, just how smart they are in general. A number of the players off those teams and the 70s teams went on to highly successful business careers, not because they were former Dallas Cowboys players, but because they had the acumen to be able to do it, the smarts to be able to do it, no matter what they did. And what Jimmy said in the Zoom that I did promoting his book Swagger was, one of his biggest things, and he told Sean Payton this: the next time that I draft a dumb player would be the last time I do it. And
Yeah.
that is one of the keys to figuring out whether these players can make it or not. And I'm struck by that. I've long thought about it with the San Francisco team the last few years, how smart, intelligent the players are, they're key players on their team. But when you look at the Kansas City team, and especially their defense and their quarterback on offense, the same holds true for them.
Really interesting you say that. I actually saw a tweet from Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports. He tweeted this in the last couple days. Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy are only the second pair of Super Bowl starting quarterbacks to be academic All-Americans in college. So both guys, super smart. I can tell you this, I've been around the Niners a good amount. I've covered 4 or 5 games in the last couple of years. I went to 49ers training camp. Fred Warner, I love Fred Warner. One of the smartest dudes in the league. I've interviewed him multiple times. That dude's sharp as well. So you're 100% right about the intelligence, not only of the quarterbacks, but I think of the teams and truthfully the head coaches as well.
And Steve Spagnuolo was talking about it with his defense. This is, I think he basically has said that this is his favorite defense to have ever coached. And the reason is because how smart the players are. And he said it, and speaking of middle linebackers, he says it all starts with Nick Bolton, who, by the way, was also an academic All-American at Missouri out of Lone Star High School here in the just up the road from the Star in Frisco. Second round draft pick a couple of years ago. And, it sort of revolves around him on defense and making the calls and stuff. I wanted to go back. I didn't have time to before this podcast. The Chiefs were slumping there. They weren't necessarily defensively in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
But whether or not Bolton was, he missed a stretch of games this season and whether he was out. But you saw it against the Ravens, what they were able to do defensively. Lamar Jackson looked like a different player against that defense. And when you got a Stanford educated guy like Justin Reed at safety as well, and we all applaud the Stanford educated people, even if they didn't last long there, like Babe Laufenberg.
They chose to go to Indiana after.
Yeah, did he chose or did he flunk out? Which was it?
I'll let you ask that question. I'm not going to ask that question. I'm guessing he chose to go to Indiana.
After he saw John Elway was his competition at Stanford, he decided, I think I'll go play for Lee Corso instead.
That shows you he's smart right there.
There you go. That's right. So he didn't flunk out. That's right. Yep. But anyway, and I've long thought that about successful teams, you got to have smart players. And that's one of the things about Patrick Mahomes did you see the mic'd up footage that NFL Films put out about Patrick Mahomes from the AFC Championship game? I thought it was terrific. It was in the heat of battle. The Chiefs were huddling up, and you saw what the Ravens were doing, committing dumb penalty after dumb penalty, and after the play and before the play. In the case of Roquan Smith, when they're giving up an offsides and he obliterates the right guard and they get a 15-yard penalty instead. Yep. Well, Mahomes, in that mic'd up segment, he was telling his offensive line, he repeated over and over before telling him what the play is: composure, composure, composure. Play through the play, but keep your composure. And it just showed in the heat of battle, he had such a presence about him, and also from a leadership standpoint, just how he is in command of what's going on that offense.
Yep, I completely agree. I think the Ravens had 4 personal foul penalties in that game and lost the turnover battle 3-0. Good luck beating the Chiefs if you're going to kill yourself with turnovers and dumb penalties. And I was lucky enough, I covered Chiefs at Bills in Buffalo there, which was the divisional round. And I was in the tunnel with the Chiefs, with Mahomes, as he was giving his pregame speech to all the quarterbacks and wide receivers. He's clearly the leader. And it was just cool to kind of be around him, watch him pregame. It was the first game I've watched Mahomes live. And so my eyes were kind of locked on him the entire pregame. But you make such great points. And that composure, honestly, you'd think like, oh, yeah, it comes along with the experience of being in all these big games that he's been in, and he's still at a young age. But he had it at a young age. He had it when he started as well. And so it's just kind of building upon itself, where you make great points on. Their team very rarely beats themselves, except for drops. Sometimes the drops are the things that get them, but no dumb penalties. Very, turnover margin is always normally in their favor as well. So that's one of the things I like about the Chiefs.
One of the other things about Steve Spagnuolo, I heard this, and I can't remember who said it, and I was trying to confirm it, and I haven't, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. What the heck? That Spagnuolo is a Rhodes Scholar in college.
Really?
Or he qualified to be a Rhodes Scholar. I don't know that he went over and did it, but that says a lot. If you just listen to him talk, he sounds like a Rhodes Scholar.
I actually love Spag. So while I'm at NFL Network, I produced a show, Good Morning Football Weekend, and Steve Spagnuolo was a guest host on our show for a week. So he came in, and I had, it was really a great experience for me that I was able to talk to him the whole week leading up and explain the show and just get his perspective on things. And then I think he did a 3-hour show with us from kind of start to finish. And it was cool just to kind of be in his presence and see things the way he saw the game being played. So yeah, it was really awesome to be around him.
So that's the other thing that's very intriguing about this. You got Kyle Shanahan on one side with the weapons that the Niners have on offense, with Debo, and we'll see whether Debo, how healthy he is. He's now had a couple of weeks to get that shoulder better, and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, who hasn't been used that much, but I'm sure they've got ways that they plan to use him in this game. But them having 2 weeks to prepare, and we all know what Andy Reid has done with 2 weeks to prepare throughout his career. I think I saw he's 30-7 coming off a bye week, and a regular season and Super Bowls combined on that.
Yeah.
So the if you can get away, if you can not be focused so much on the party that you're at, watching the Super Bowl, but actually get into the game itself. It can be a very fun experience, I think, on Sunday afternoon for the people who are really into football strategy.
Speaking of that, something to watch on Sunday. And again, I've looked through this NFL Network research packet. This thing's incredible, by the way. It's 59 pages on the Chiefs, Niners, and Super Bowl history. I mean, insane deep facts here. But something that stood out to me: what will the Niners run game look like? Because we know it's super important. And this is how in depth and in the weeds this thing gets. But this is very important. Which direction will the Niners run the football? Left, right, up the middle? Because I worked with James Palmer, NFL Network reporter, during the playoffs. He's covered the Chiefs a ton the last few years, and he's covered them every game this postseason. He and I were talking about Chris Jones and how players have told him that opponents against the Chiefs defense will literally, before the snap, figure out where Big 95 is, and they'll just run the opposite direction, run away from Chris Jones. So this is why this is important, because the Niners have a lot of success running in different areas along the line. Here we go, Bill Jones. 5.1 yards per carry going outside right for the 49ers. 3.6 yards per carry going up the middle. They average 6.6 yards per carry going outside left, the 49ers. So, Mr. Jones, who do you think is responsible for 6.6, which leads the league, by the way, yards per carry outside left for the Niners?
How many times does Debo carry the ball?
I don't have the numbers. I'm not positive on that, but I'm saying which offensive lineman lines up outside left?
Yeah.
Trent Williams. Trent Williams at left tackle. He's a big part of that. And so I'm intrigued to find out how often the Chiefs line up Chris Jones on Trent Williams. And could that kind of prevent or neutralize that huge advantage that San Francisco's had? running outside left this year.
Very interesting. I love that. So that's in that NFL Network package.
It's incredible, all the stats that this thing has. I know how many times each team's run 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers, single high safety, zone defense, man defense, blitz. It's very, very thorough.
Can you post that online for all of us to look at?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would be fired immediately. I can assure you of that.
It's like the game plan. It's like the playbook.
Pretty much. You can pick and choose which stats you want.
That would be like an NFL player posting a playbook, an NFL playbook.
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing, Bill Jones, how about this? Let's talk Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, that connection. We know it's been incredible in the postseason, but it's been a really odd year for Travis Kelce. Came out on fire, averaging 8 catches, 83 yards per game in September and October, so the first 2 months of the year. He had a couple injuries, little injuries, still played through them for the most part. But the second half of the season, 5 catches for 50 yards during the second half of the season. So a pretty significant drop-off. And I actually looked this up, and James Palmer and I talked about it in Kansas City. At one point, Travis Kelce went 7 straight games without a touchdown during the second half of the season, which was the longest stretch of his career with Mahomes. But since the playoffs has popped off here, 8 catches, 87 yards, 3 touchdowns in 3 games. So he's back to being a superhero in the postseason. Now, here's what
that is.
Why is that? He's turning it on?
No, it's he and Taylor their relationship has reached a new level now. Okay. The first few months, he was goo-goo-eyed, whatever, and so he was
trying to show out. He was trying to ball out. Okay.
No, he was distracted. Okay. Now there's a certain maturity that has occurred in their relationship where he can focus more on football. And so that is what has happened here. That's the way I analyze that.
Here's the other thing to know. Fred Warner is the best coverage linebacker in the league, allowing just a 62 passer rating against him this season. So you have Kelce, who's been on fire in the playoffs, going against the best coverage linebacker in the game. There is another little stat to look forward to, or a matchup to watch come Sunday.
So what do you propose then for San Francisco and how they defend Travis Kelce?
I say Warner. You got to go Warner, and then you got to also double team. I think you need help over the top, because single coverage, probably even with Warner, I think that's where Mahomes is looking. But yeah, a combination of Warner plus Warner and a safety.
All right. If Warner is not in the middle of that defense, what about defending Isaiah Pacheco?
He could have a big day, Bill Jones. We know Pacheco is a big-time player in the playoffs. He's proven that.
All right. Well, I think another thing on the San Francisco defense, because he's one of your guys from Ohio State. What do you make of Chase Young and the quote-unquote lack of impact that he has made for the 49ers since coming over from the Commanders?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've kind of looked at that pass rush situation. How much will the Niners be able to get to Mahomes? Because I believe that Mahomes has only been sacked twice in the postseason. But interesting to know, I believe the Niners only have 2 sacks total in their 2 playoff games. So definitely something that's kind of odd. You figure they had Chase Young, who was a great player with the Commanders, obviously a high pick. You had him with Nick Bosa, who's a great player. Hargrave is in there. But for some reason, it just really hasn't worked out as far as a pass rush here in the postseason.
Okay. You have anything else you'd like to offer on the game? I want to get to the pressure is on.
All right, let's do it, Bill Jones. Who are you feeling?
I can't get off of Brock Purdy with the pressures on. I mean, I think it's just too obvious. Obviously, the pressure is more on a quarterback than any other player, and Mahomes has been here before. So many times he's been here before, and I don't think there's any question he's going to be able to handle everything. And I think Purdy, he's shown here very early in his career that he's been able to step up in these pressure situations. But here is the ultimate pressure situation. But then again, you weren't born yet, young Cody, but there was a great quote from Super Bowls past, and it was when the Cowboys first won a Super Bowl in 1971, January 1972, one of the most famous interviews in Super Bowl history after the game. Tom Brookshire asked Dwayne Thomas a question, and his answer, Dwayne Thomas did not talk all year. He didn't even talk to his own teammates. But he was the star of the 24-3 win. Wasn't the MVP. Many think he should have been. Roger Staubach was. So Brookshire asked him a question about his running style. And the only thing that Dwayne Thomas said was, evidently. That's what he got out of him. But there was another quote from Dwayne Thomas that said, if this is the ultimate game, then why do they play it again next year? So I was just reminded of that when I said this is the ultimate pressure game on Brock Purdy. But it might be for Brock Purdy. It might be for him in his career that this might be his only chance to play in a Super Bowl. And the other thing about Purdy, he's very young. He is, I think he's just turned 24, or he's in that range where even though he played in 4 years at Iowa State and played a lot, he didn't have like a redshirt year or anything. And
just turned 24, Bill Jones. Well done. December 27th was his birthday.
So this is pretty heady stuff for a young 24-year-old. I don't know what you were doing, young Cody. You might have been in the CBS 11 producer's booth at age 24. There is a lot of pressure when you're producing a Babe Loffenberg sportscast. You never know what's going to happen next.
That's true. You know what I was doing at 24? I was sitting by you in the newsroom at CBS 11. Yeah, sweating out Babe's sportscast, 6 and 10 o'clock sports there.
So next to that, I think Brock Purdy is in the next most pressurized situation you could be in. And so that's who the pressure's on. I think everyone can agree it's on Brock Purdy, isn't it?
Very much so. What's interesting about Brock is his numbers are way down in the postseason. Bill Jones, 113 passer rating during the regular season, just 87 in the postseason. His completion percentage is way down. His yards per attempt is way down. And so I have a feeling this game is going to be close down to the wire. And it's going to come down to Mahomes versus Purdy. Who makes the plays at the end against a top 3 scoring defense? Because they both have top 3 scoring defenses. And I think that is where we'll find out if Brock Purdy is a good quarterback or a great quarterback, because that's the answer we're all trying to find.
Which quarterback played best last year when the Chiefs played the Eagles?
Well, I think they were both terrific. You could make the argument either way, but here in Philly, most people say Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes.
Did you see Jalen Hurts at the Pro Bowl challenge, or whatever they call that, the games they play on the Thursday night?
I did. I also saw him throw a touchdown pass in the Pro Bowl flag football game to CeeDee Lamb. I thought that was interesting.
Did you see him matched up against Micah Parsons in the accuracy contest?
No, I did not.
Throwing a football into a tire or whatever?
No, I did not. What happened?
Micah from 40, 50 yards out. Bingo!
Really?
Jalen was not so accurate.
Oh, interesting.
So there you go.
That. Can I do a pressure's on for you?
Yes.
We've already talked about him. His name is Steve Spagnuolo. I think the pressure's on him as the Chiefs defensive coordinator. Let me explain. He's going against Kyle Shanahan. And again, some of these numbers are incredible, the impact Shanahan has. Listen to this, Bill Jones. Brock Purdy, first in the league among quarterbacks in yards per attempt, 9.6 yards. Christian McCaffrey, first among running backs in yards per carry, 5.4. George Kittle, first among tight ends in yards per reception, 15.7. Deebo Samuel, first in the league in yak yards per reception. Brandon Ayuk, second in the league among receivers in yards per reception. So that you don't get these types of stats when one player is good or even two players is good. This is Kyle Shanahan's impact and how he stresses defenses, both play designing and play calling. And so can Spags neutralize that? I think that'll be a huge factor.
That brings me to another pressure's on. I would say the pressure is more on Kyle Shanahan because of what's happened in Super Bowls past for him.
You could make that argument.
And of course, they met in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. And then, of course, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons and the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
Yep. If he loses this game, he'll be 0-2 in Super Bowls as a head coach, 0-3 if you include that choke job. That was a choke job, the Falcons against the Patriots. And a lot of it was on him as the OC, not being able to close that game against Tom Brady. You ready to do a little college all-star talk?
I do, but I would like to, before we do that, I just would like to pay my respects to a young man who announced this week he's retiring from football. And you asked earlier about the Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook. And yes, I want to show you, I do have my Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook. In what I have done this year, I have not gone with the traditional
spiral.
Okay, this is the 2023 Big Green
Yeah.
NFL Draft Scouting Notebook, and you see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. I've gone with the big notebook this year.
Yeah, that looks bigger.
Where I've got loose leaf paper in here, and I can take that out, and I can do whatever with it. I decided I'd go this route this year with the Big Green Notebook. I know you are agape. Your jaw has hit the floor there in Philadelphia.
This is the ultimate breaking news, Bill Jones. Has anybody tweeted this out? Has anybody reported this? Or
I am not. I'm revealing this for the first time here on this edition of Jonesing for Football, but I digress. Young Rex Burkhead, he is the ultimate of what we're all looking for in the Big Green Notebook, and he retired from football at the age of 33, I think is what he is now, maybe 34. He, when he came out of Plano Senior High School, he was honored as the Texas High School Football Player of the Year. I emceed that ceremony, and I said at that time that this guy right here, he's going to win a Super Bowl for the New England Patriots someday. And sure enough, after being one of the top rushers in University of Nebraska history, a Campbell Trophy finalist, and then he had a astronomical 39 vertical at the combine to go along with his 4.73 40.
Good thing he jumped high. Good thing he jumped high.
Yeah.
You might not have gotten drafted otherwise.
Sixth round draft pick of the Bengals, but he had to play behind Gio Bernard and whoever that other running back was. I can't remember. Bernard was in the same draft, and he finally got an opportunity with the Patriots. And sure enough, he scored the go-ahead touchdown against Kansas City to propel the Patriots to the Super Bowl and was on that Super Bowl champion team. I think there's only one person, maybe two. It would be myself and Rick Burkhead, Rex's dad, who thought that he could have a 10-year career in the NFL, and he had a 10-year career in the NFL. That's what we're looking for in the Big Green Notebook.
Congrats to Rex on a great NFL career. 26 touchdowns. I'm looking at the numbers now. Over 3,400 scrimmage yards. That's a good career, man. He did a great job, was terrific in the pass game on third downs, reliable, picking up blitzes, did all the things that coaches
special teams.
Special teams for sure. Congratulations to him. And we need to get him on the podcast, Bill Jones. That means we might have some time.
Yeah, he's got some time on his hand. All right. So you found some Rex Burkheads. You think there might be some Rex Burkheads in the college all-star games you were watching?
If we're lucky. I'm not going to go that far about all these guys.
It's a high bar.
Exactly. 10-year career is tough to do. But I do have 6 players that I would like to quickly talk about, Bill Jones. I'm going to start by giving you 3 from the East-West Shrine game. You should have watched that, by the way. You probably could have heard it from your backyard. That's how close it was. And then I'm going to give you a little a little Senior Bowl stuff as well. All right, let me start with the East-West game, who I thought was clearly the best player on the field, Taulia Tagovailoa, the quarterback from Maryland. He didn't start the game. He entered in the second quarter and instantly looked a level above almost every player on the field. Finished 9 of 14, 142 passing yards and a rushing touchdown. His throws were on target. He looked really quick, eluding pass rush. And so I do think he's a righty, for those of you wondering. Tua is the lefty, Taulia is the righty. So I do think Tua's younger brother is on my radar as a late-round quarterback option. Speaking of prospects with family already in the NFL, my next player, Frank Gore Jr., Southern Miss. Of course, he's the son of longtime NFL running back Frank Gore, who, by the way, no one knows this. No one knows this. Frank Gore is 3rd on the all-time rushing list in the NFL.
Babe Laufenberg knew that.
That's incredible. I didn't think he was that high. I knew he was close to top 5, but 16,000 rushing yards for Frank Gore. Anyway,
Hall of Famer.
His Hall of Famer, for sure. His son looked the part in this East-West game. He was the leading rusher in the game, 87 yards on 6 carries, ripped off a big 49-yard touchdown run to open the scoring. He's also projected as a day 3 pick, same as Taulia. And I'll be able to see if he can improve that over these next few months, because he does have quite the resume, running for over 4,200 yards at Southern Miss, including, Bill Jones, you probably remember this, 329 in one game against Rice back in 2022. So that's an incredible performance, obviously, right there. And then I think my favorite player at the Shrine Bowl, and Bill Jones, you're going to need this guy. This is probably going to be a Dallas Cowboys pick. I'm projecting right now he's going to be a big factor in your big green notebook. Another running back, Blake Watson from Memphis. Stop me if you've heard this before. A wide receiver turned running back, balling out for the Tigers. Antonio Gibson, hello. Tony Pollard, hello.
Tony Pollard, hello.
Yep. And he's balled out in this all-star game. My guy, Blake Watson, 46 yards on the ground. He was the 2nd leading rusher. He also caught 65 yards through the air. He was the game's leading receiver. And so this dude has a real smoothness, kind of glides. And I love this. Bill Jones, you'll like this. Late in the game, his West squad had pretty much wrapped up the game. They're running the clock out. Under 2 minutes to go. Watson takes the handoff, breaks through the line, gets to the 2nd level, past the safety. He has a clear path to the end zone. This is an all-star game, by the way. Blake Watson took a knee at the 10-yard line instead of running it in. The game was already pretty much over, but he just took the knee so they could run the clock out, even though it was an all-star game. I thought it was something, truthfully, I thought it was something Rex Burkhead would do. You're just trying to win the game. It doesn't matter what type of game it is.
Please.
You don't like that move?
We started this podcast talking about we need smart football players. You also have to have an awareness of the situation. You're playing in an all-star game. Score the touchdown.
I like what he's doing. See, every game's the same, and this kid could have run it in. He probably would have been the MVP had he run it in, Bill Jones. But he's projected as a late round pick.
All right, on his Wikipedia page, would it say he took a knee down at the 10-yard line in the All-Star game, or would it say he was the MVP?
Well, would have said he was the MVP had he done that. But I like the character of saying, you know what, we're going to win. We got to take the knee, win this game, run out the clock. So keep an eye, because the Cowboys, I have a feeling, are going to need to draft a running back next year. So keep an eye on Blake Watson from Memphis.
I love it. Love it. Okay. Very
Senior
good.
Bowl time?
What's that?
You ready for some Senior Bowl,
Yes, I'd
guys?
love Senior Bowl.
All right, I'm
I
starting
can't wait to
with.
go on YouTube and watch the game here a month or so from now.
There you go. All right, I'm starting with a
Spoiler
guy.
alert.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna watch though, Bill Jones. I know you probably DVR'd both of them.
I'm
I
not going
actually
to
did.
listen. I'm not going to listen to a word you say so that you don't spoil the end for me.
You might as well. You've already read all this stuff. I know you've already read the recaps. All right, I'm starting with a guy most considered probably the best defensive player on display. That's Quinyon Mitchell, the corner from Toledo. My guy Daniel Jeremiah said he was the best defensive player throughout the week. Said his speed, awareness, and ball skills are off the charts. Those are quotes from DJ. I liked his size and physicality. 6', 196, won almost every rep the whole week in practice, going against some really good talent. He was a second-team All-American, two-time first-team All-MAC. And what a lot of people liked is he could have transferred out of Toledo after having 5 interceptions during the 2022 season, but he stayed with the Rockets, had another great year. DJ has him as his number 19 overall prospect. This kid's going to be a first-rounder. Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, Bill Jones. Write that name down.
Okay.
Moving to another defensive guy, Braden Fisk, D lineman from Florida State. Started the week on the American team. He tore it up in practice. But on the day of the game, the national team, the other team, was short defensive linemen. So Fisk got traded to the other team the day of the game. And he balled out in the game. He had 4 tackles, a half a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss. DJ called him one of the biggest winners of the week. He only played 1 year at Florida State. He had 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. Right now online, he's projected as a 3rd or 4th round pick, but I have a feeling he's moving up after his performance in Mobile. And lastly,
in his first 4 or 5 years, he was at Western Michigan.
he was.
He's like a 24-year-old, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Next up, Bill Jones. You're going to like this guy as well. A lot of these guys are going to be prominent figures in the Big Green Notebook.
Okay.
Ladd McConkey, wide out from Georgia. He only had 1 catch for 15 yards in the game, but was nearly unguardable during the week of practice. I'm such a sicko, Bill Jones. Not only did I watch every snap of the Senior Bowl, I watched almost all of the practices throughout the week. NFL Network did a great job airing both teams' practices in the morning session and afternoon session. Really good for football junkies. If you guys want to tune in next year, make sure you do. McConkey voted as the top wideout on the American team. DJ has him as his number 44 overall prospect. So again, you're looking at probably a 2nd round, maybe late 1st round pick there for McConkey. Battled injuries a lot of the season, still managed to put up over 1,700 yards receiving and 18 touchdowns during his time in Athens. We'll get his official measurements at the combine, but he's listed at 6 foot, 185 on Georgia's website. Really good in the slot. And I'm all about these slot guys, Bill Jones, going high in the draft because we know how important they are to an offense. And in the past, it's kind of seemed like they kind of fall to the 3rd round, 4th round, all these Cooper Kupp type guys. And then they come in and just blow people away in the league. I like McConkey as a slot guy. Looks like 2nd round-ish according to DJ. But those are my players that stood out in the college all-star games.
You know, the thing I'm having trouble with Ladd McConkey is I keep thinking of Phil McConkey when I hear about Ladd McConkey, and I thought for sure he must be related to the great New York Giants wide receiver. I say great. He was 5'10", 170 pounds out of the Naval Academy.
Okay.
And undrafted, and was one of those guys that played for Parcells, a Super Bowl team, when he was with the Giants 86 to 88, and prior to that, actually from 84 to 88. But he's not related to Phil McConkey. I know that the longtime football guys out there are thinking, oh, it may be Ladd McConkey's son, or actually it'd probably be Phil McConkey's son, or it'd probably be more as like his grandson, but it's not.
Right.
Apparently he's not related to the great Phil McConkey. I just wanted to clear that up.
I'm writing that down on my notes. Thank you. I had never heard of Phil McConkey, but now I'll go back and look him up too.
Yeah, but played at Georgia too. Not only played at Georgia, but played a lot at Georgia, and so he's got rings.
Yep. Two-time national champion, super quick, going against, again, at the Senior Bowl, going against the best competition in college football. Made a lot of corners look bad, created a lot of separation. So I definitely like him. You ready to do some guarantees, Mr. Jones?
All right. We can guarantee. I'll have to think of something real quick.
All right. Well, then here, I'll start. But first, before I give you my guarantee, we got to look back at the last time we did guarantees. And it was 3 weeks ago, the divisional round.
Let me guess, since you're making a point to go back that far to our guarantees, you must have done well, but go ahead.
You would think. But I said my guarantee was Jordan Love, Packers quarterback, would throw 0 interceptions against the 49ers. Now, I think Bill Jones had his own guarantee, but when he heard mine, I'm pretty sure he just changed on the fly and just went opposite of mine. Bill Jones, I think you went with Jordan Love would have at least 1 interception against San Francisco. And you were right. 2 picks for Jordan Love against the Niners, meaning you got the point. Well
and
done.
Keep in mind, Jordan Love only threw 1 pick the whole last half of the season.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And lit up the Cowboys the week before. Obviously 0 picks in that game. So Bill Jones, your lead in the guarantees is 7-5.
Ooh, well, right down to the wire. So we're going to double the points here.
Sure, let's do it. I like the sound of that. I was going to say that anyway, but you beat me.
Triple the points, so that gives you a chance to win. Triple the points.
All right. Do you want me to go?
I want you to go first,
okay,
so that I can go the opposite of you.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that again. Please go the opposite, because you're going to lose this time. All right. I've got someone that'll find the end zone in Super Bowl 58 as my guarantee.
Christian McCaffrey.
I could have gone with that. I almost went with that. But I'm actually going with Deebo Samuel, Bill Jones. The Niners do-it-all playmaker. He hasn't scored yet in the postseason, but he is a favorite of Brock Purdy in the red zone. Plus, we know he's a threat in the run game. I looked online. His odds of scoring an anytime touchdown are plus 160. So pretty good value for Deebo if you're into that sort of thing. So that's my guarantee. Deebo Samuel scores a touchdown in Super Bowl 58.
All right. So do you have the odds on other players?
I do.
I would say right off the bat, we cannot say Christian McCaffrey scores a touchdown. That's not you can't guarantee that, because that's going to happen.
Yep.
And Kelsey, you got to take Kelsey off the board too.
I
Right?
would agree.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right. What are the odds that Rashee Rice scores a touchdown?
Let me look that up, Bill Jones. But
160 on Deebo.
Yep. Let me look it up, Bill Jones.
I'm toying with Rashee Rice or Isaiah Pacheco.
Both of those are good options. I have a feeling. Hold on.
I'm going to go with one or the other. Whichever one has the longer odds, because I want to give you a chance, because you invest so much time in this. I want to give you a chance to win on the guarantee.
You're so kind.
Good-hearted I am. And in the meantime, I will let you all know that you can watch the Super Bowl on CBS Texas. I believe it's a 5:38 Texas time kickoff. That's what it usually is.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've strayed from that.
Okay. Let me check a website, Bill Jones, because I'm struggling to find it on my first look for Super Bowl odds.
It's got to be in that NFL Network packet that you've got.
No, we don't really do that. We don't really
dive into it. Even though the game is in Vegas, they don't dive into betting lines.
All right. I've got it for you. Who are we deciding between?
We're deciding between Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco.
Isaiah Pacheco, anytime touchdown, minus 130. So Pacheco has the second best odds in the game to score behind, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. Jerry Rice, as I heard him called earlier this week, plus 140. So the fifth best odds among all the players. So you can go Pacheco minus 130. I don't know about the value there. Or Rashid Rice at plus 140.
But you were 160 on Debo?
Correct. Plus 160.
Do you have anybody that's plus 170?
I can find that for you, or I thought I could before I just clicked on it.
Because I want to give you a chance.
You could go anytime touchdown. George Kittle plus 185.
I'll take Kittle because that syncs up with my pick for the game.
That makes sense.
Ready to make your pick for the game?
I am. I would like to hear yours first, unless you want me to lead the way, and then you can.
No, I'll go with mine. I'm going to go ahead, even though my heart is with Kansas City because my wife is a Texas Tech grad and she watches every single game. The only game she ever is front and center to watch. She doesn't care about the Cowboys. It's Kansas City, and she owns the TV whenever the Chiefs are on. And even though my heart is there for her, I'm going to go ahead and stick with my pick from the beginning of the season that San Francisco will win the game and George Kittle will score a touchdown.
Good work, Bill Jones. My pick is as follows. I'm going to use a quote to set this thing up. Let's rewind 3 weeks ago. A very wise man said, quote, you could easily make the case the Chiefs are about to take off. Mahomes, Reed, Kelsey, and the best KC defense in 30 years. All the ingredients are there for another Super Bowl run, unquote. Mr. Jones, any idea who said that 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
Before the Bills game in the divisional round.
Was it me?
No, it was somebody else on this podcast. Guess who said that? Guess who else? All right, it was me, Bill Jones. So I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to win the game as I'm grabbing my Patrick Mahomes bobblehead. Here he is. They're 2.5-point favorites. This dude as an underdog, I'll take it all day. It'll be his third Lombardi in the last 5 years, and KC will be the first team to repeat as Super Bowl champion since the 03-04 Patriots.
All right, which will make him the greatest of all time?
We're getting there. Not quite yet.
Getting close.
But we're getting there.
All right. That was very good. And I wish I would take the Chiefs. How's that for me taking both sides?
Well, you can't. You cannot get off your pick right now, your preseason pick.
I have to. I've had to go with San Francisco all along because of that. So,
and same for me. I can't get off my preseason pick of picking the Niners to lose in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So give me the Chiefs.
So there we go. You know what? I think that was an Emmy award-winning edition of Jonesing for Football. If we were doing the voting.
Here, I just grabbed my Patrick Mahomes bobblehead, so now I'm going to grab the Emmy. Look at here, both of them.
Don't drop either one of them.
I know. I know.
Patrick Mahomes is shaking his head no.
I'm trying to get him to shake his head yes, but it's not really working.
Won't go up and down. All right, so that'll do it. And I think we set a record for Babe Laufenberg mentions on this podcast as well. What do you think?
Yes, and maybe a record for length of podcast. And we needed to because we took 2 weeks off. So Babe has not been on the elliptical for going on 20-ish days here. So this is going to get him back in the mood. It's almost beach season for Babe. So he's got to get things going on.
That's right. And we're going to guarantee also we will have a podcast to wrap up the Super Bowl and look forward to the off season next week, right?
We'll do a Super Bowl recap and we'll look back at all our preseason picks. Who won the division, how many playoff teams we had, who won the awards. We predicted all those. We'll see how many of those cash. And so, yes, that'll be next week on our terrific podcast here.
And I've ramped up my website, BillJonesSports.com. And I'm going to have this sitting front and center. So for those of you who are listening to this on your favorite home for podcast, you can also watch it on, maybe you could sync up the audio even on the YouTube version, and that will be, you can find on BillJonesSports.com along with the podcast. What do you think of that?
Well, BillJonesSports.com is now my homepage. It gives me all the latest news and updates, not only on Dallas sports, but Bill Jones, you're terrific at kind of widening things out and adding intriguing little nuggets and notes that are great for all sports fans.
I'm going to hire you to run that.
The Twitter page. I'm pretty good. I can run the page and the Twitter page. Sign me up.
All right, that does it for this edition of Jonesing for Football. Enjoy the big game on CBS Texas on Sunday, and we will chat at you again next week here on Jonesing
for Football. Love you, babe.